Kevin Lau out of ICU. A Barack Obama warning to Russia over Ukraine. And anti-government protesters to scale back their campaign in Bangkok.
Good evening. The condition of Ming Bao's former chief editor has further improved. Kevin Lau is now in stable condition and no longer in the intensive care unit at Eastern Hospital. And as Vicky Kung reports, police are making headway in their investigation into Wednesday's attack.
A reassuring gesture from Kevin Lau at Eastern Hospital today. The former chief editor of Ming Pao was moved from the intensive care unit to a private ward this morning. Just yesterday, his condition was upgraded from critical to serious. The veteran journalist was attacked in Saiwan Ho on Wednesday morning. Secretary for Development Paul Chan, Secretary for Food and Health Ko Eng-man, and Democratic Party legislator Emily Lau were among those who visited Lau today. Emily Lau said Kevin Lau was able to speak and wanted to know what was going on outside. Kevin Lau's wife Vivian thanked the public for their support. She said it will take a long time for her husband to fully recover. She also encouraged members of the public to stand firm and continue to serve society. Police believe one of the men involved in Lau's attack may have fled the scene in a taxi. Officers have managed to track down the taxi driver, and it's believed the suspect was driven to Kowloon Tong. Plainclothes officers were at the Kowloon Tong MTR station today looking for clues. Investigators are not ruling out the possibility that suspect might have fled to the mainland on board an East Rail train on the day of the attack. Police also tried to see if the suspect had used the octopus card at a convenience store. Police are looking for two men in connection with the attack. Meanwhile, Ming Pao's chief editor Chen Kin-po has identified dozens of newspaper articles that might have offended certain people. He has submitted those articles to the police to help with their investigation. Vicky Kung, TVB News.
Tycoon Li Ka-shing insisted today he was not targeting Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying's government. As Evelyn Leung reports, Li's remarks yesterday on governance has sparked controversy.
Hong Kong's richest man said today the media had misinterpreted some of the comments he made yesterday during the results announcement of his business empire. Li Ka-shing said yesterday those who have the ability should speak out and help Hong Kong rather than having incapable people run the city. Some say he was taking aim at Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying. It is unfair for people to think that my comment targeted the chief executive. He has been trying to do his best, Li said today. The tycoon insisted there's nothing else for him to clarify and that everyone simply wants the best for the city. Those with ability should make use of their talent to create a better future for the SAR, he said. And the chairman of Cheung Kong Holdings had more to say about the local property market. He doesn't expect the United States to raise interest rates this year, and local property prices will not drop by much because of high construction costs, Li explained. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
The LegCo president has come up with a number of ways to fight a possible budget filibuster. Financial Secretary John Tsang also waded in, saying the public would be affected if lawmakers fail to approve his blueprint. Rachel Leung reports.
Threats of yet another filibuster by lawmakers unhappy with the financial secretary's budget. Today, Zhang Zhen expressed concerns about a possible bid to block the passage of his blueprint in LegCo. He said such a move would delay the funding of services affecting the public. Zhang said temporary funding for the next fiscal year would run out by June, and if the budget is not passed by that time, it could force many hospitals and schools to shut down. Last year, the People Power and other lawmakers initiated a filibuster by submitting more than 700 amendments to the budget. After some 100 hours of deliberation, Chung Yuk-sing called an end to the debate using his authority as the LegCo president. Jung has now come up with a number of ways to try to cut short filibusters. Lawmakers could table a motion to end the debate to be voted on immediately. Another option is for lawmakers to table a motion to set a time limit on a debate. And the LegCo president could be allowed to decide whether certain amendments are frivolous and reject them. The LegCo president could also have the power to group similar amendments together instead of having lawmakers to vote on them one by one. The LegCo Committee on Rules of Procedure will discuss these options later this month. Jung Yuk-sing believes measures to stop filibustering would be approved before lawmakers begin scrutinizing the budget. Rachel Ling, TVB News.
Turning overseas now, fears are growing that an invasion by stealth is underway in the Ukrainian region of Crimea, where Russian troops are reportedly growing in numbers. But pro-Russian authorities in Crimea say they welcome Moscow's support and refuse to recognize the interim government in Kiev, which they say illegally ousted former President Viktor Yanukovych. Russia says it will not ignore calls for help from Crimea, where authorities there want assistance to break free from the interim government in Kiev. That help appears to be sending troops to Crimea under the guise of an exercise to reinforce Russia's military base there. But Ukraine's interim president, Alexander Turchinov, is having none of it, denouncing the move as an effective invasion. Russian troops have also been accused of secretly joining local militia to seize control of Crimea's parliament, several government buildings, and the region's main airport. Turchinov says the situation is similar to the one faced by Georgia in 2008, when Russia supported Abkhazia separatists who broke free of the country. US President Barack Obama says he's deeply concerned about reports of Russian troop movements and warned Moscow it'd pay the price if it escalated things.
But any violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity would be deeply destabilizing, which is not in the interest of Ukraine, Russia, or Europe. It would represent a profound interference in matters that must be determined by the Ukrainian people. It would be a clear violation of Russia's commitment to respect the independence and sovereignty and borders of Ukraine and of international laws. The United States will stand with the international community in affirming that there will be costs for any military intervention in Ukraine.
Crimea is an autonomous region of Ukraine. It appears the local authorities have become emboldened, with Crimea's pro-Russian Prime Minister claiming complete control of all military, police, and other security services in the region. He's also asked Moscow to continue its support in guaranteeing the security and stability of Crimea. Another man who's defiant, ousted Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, who's a wanted man in Ukraine and is now in Russia. Appearing for the first time since he left Kiev, he pledged to continue his struggle against the interim government and fight for the future of Ukraine. Well, more clashes between protesters and police in Venezuela last night, with one National Guard member reportedly shot dead in the unrest. Scores battled riot police and National Guard troops in Caracas, with dozens reportedly detained by authorities. At least 18 people have been killed in the protests that have swept through the country over the past 3 weeks. President Nicolas Maduro has pledged to bring the situation under control, and even U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says he's willing to help, despite the spat over the expulsion of diplomats.
We are working very closely with Colombia and with other countries to try to see how some kind of mediation might be able to take place, because it's obviously already proven very difficult for the two sides to bring themselves together by themselves.
Relative calm returned to the streets of Bangkok today as anti-government protesters scaled back their presence in the streets. Protest leader Suthep Thaugsuban said the demonstrators will withdraw from several stages that have been set up at key intersections around the Thai capital. Alan Buckner reports.
The cleanup starts as protesters turned janitors cleaned graffiti off the gate of the Royal Thai Police headquarters. Suthep says it's because they care about the people of Bangkok and want to return the city to its owners. But he said actions to shut down government offices and disrupt businesses controlled by caretaker Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra will continue. This comes after violence escalated recently, with almost nightly grenade attacks and the deaths of 4 children last weekend. In all, 23 people have been killed and hundreds wounded since the anti-government demonstrations began last November. In a sign of what could be easing tensions, Suthep offered to negotiate with Yingluck, shifting from an absolute refusal he had maintained for months. In his nightly speech yesterday, Suthep said he's willing to appear in a live TV debate with Yingluck. Anti-government protesters have been demanding that she resign, accusing her of corruption and being a puppet of her brother, former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. Yingluck, who is in northern Thailand, responded that her government wants negotiations, but the protesters must stop blocking elections and other constitutional processes. Snap polls in early February were disrupted by protesters. Several districts will hold a revote tomorrow. While the protests have failed to meet self-proclaimed deadlines, pressure is mounting on Yingluck. Thailand's Anti-Graft Commission, which has a history of hostility towards her and her allies, is hearing negligence charges against her for allegedly mishandling a government rice subsidy program. She could face impeachment or prison if found guilty. Alan Bookniat, TVB News.
And when we come back, setback for the American economy. New hotels in Kai Tak to target high-value customers. And Roger Federer beats Novak Djokovic in Dubai.